Hey guys, welcome to my channel, Stock Compounder. My name is Brad, and today I want to talk about 3 reasons that passive investing beats active investing. And when I say passive investing here, I'm really talking about approaches where you put money into your portfolio, you make contributions on a regular basis, and you're not picking individual companies. Really, usually you'd be investing in an index fund or even using some kind of mechanical stock picking approach like the magic formula, like the free lunch portfolio from Monish Pabrai, where the list is pre-generated for you about what you're going to buy, or you just plug the same amount of money into an index fund every month, every 3 months, however often your contributions are. So that would be passive. You're putting it in automatically, and you're not yourself trying to pick which companies you're investing in. So let's talk about these 3 reasons why passive investing beats active investing the vast majority of the time. So the first reason is humans are emotional and irrational, okay? We have all of these biases that lead to bad investment decisions. There's no such thing as someone who's born a great investor. Investing is really a learned skill, a learned behavior. And there's a lot of things in the stock market, in the investing world, that actually work against us doing well as investors. Charlie Munger, he did a talk at Harvard, I believe it was in 1995, called The Psychology of Human Misjudgment. And he talked about a couple dozen biases that humans, have, that we're programmed with. And it's really amazing, how many different ways, how many different programs we have that really work against us when it comes to doing well investing. So I highly recommend you check that out. It's a great, I think it's like an hour and 15 minutes. It's a fantastic use of your time. So that's the first one. Humans, we're just chock full of biases. Now, when we're doing passive investing, as long as we're sticking to the plan, we're contributing monthly, quarterly, whatever it is, the same amount, or if our income goes up, or say we want to contribute more, a higher percentage of our income, we're doing that irrespective of how we feel about the stock market in terms of, is it expensive, is it cheap? We're just putting it in, okay? This is a long-term approach, just putting it in, and we're putting it in a way that's predetermined, whether it's the S&P 500, say an index fund that tracks the S&P 500, or if it's an annual list of companies that we buy and sell automatically, based on predetermined rules about how to do that. So when you do it that way, all these biases that we're programmed with don't come into play. We want to do it as mechanically as possible and not try to discern, I want to tweak this thing or I want to tweak that thing. That's going to get most people in trouble by doing that. So let's talk about the second reason. Now, when we look at the S&P 500, which is basically the 500 largest U.S. companies. When we buy an index fund that tracks the S&P 500, we own all of the superstars, all of the unicorns. And as they rise, they make up a bigger and bigger percentage of our portfolio. Okay? Now this is huge, especially when we look at the top of the S&P 500 now. You've got companies like Microsoft, Apple, Google, Facebook, Netflix. These companies that have been in the S&P 500 for quite a while now, and they've just been crushing it. I mean, the returns of those companies has been phenomenal. And so people who have owned the entire index, the entire S&P 500, the returns of the portfolio has, in large part been attributed to these outstanding performers. And so that's the great thing about buying an index is, you're not missing any of the unicorns, any of these fabulous companies. They're all in there, okay? As opposed to if you're a stock picker, you're going to miss most, if not all, of those incredible companies. I forgot to mention Amazon. Amazon is obviously up there as well. The reason is, a lot of these great companies, a lot of the companies that top the S&P 500 now, looking back, they've always looked kind of expensive, right? They've never really been cheap in terms of, how you might define cheap as a value investor, okay? So that's the downside of active investing. A lot of these companies that do really well always look expensive. But when you look at, their performance over the last 10 or 20 years, it was worth buying them at an expensive price. But of course, nobody could have known that. So that's the challenge of being an active investor and the benefit of being a passive investor if you're buying index funds that include those companies. And then the third one, the market, you can't really time the market. Now, I know I had a conversation with a guy, I think it was back in like 2016, and he had been out of the market since 2013 because he just thought it was too expensive. Things got really cheap, 2008, 2009. By the time 2013 hit, the market may have been a double or something, or even more than that from 2009. And he was just like, well, it's too expensive. The market is too expensive. Can you imagine sitting on the sidelines from 2013 to now in 2020, like in cash? It's just, it's really hard to time the market. The market may look expensive, but it can get a lot more expensive. It can go on for years and years. We don't really know what's going to happen next. So, this market timing issue is a really tough nut to crack as an active investor. Because as an active investor, not only are you trying to pick, the companies that you want to hitch your wagon to, but you want to buy them when they're cheap. And obviously, most of the time, generally they're not going to be cheap. And so, you can easily slip into this condition of trying to time the market and waiting until we have some kind of a major correction. And that's a really tough game to play. As a passive investor, you don't have to play that game. You're just automatically contributing. Sure, you're going to be buying sometimes when it's expensive, and your returns on those particular contributions may not be as great. But on the other hand, you're also going to be investing at the bottom or very near the bottom, especially if you're making contributions every month. You're going to be very close to the bottom, maybe a couple of months in a row. And that's really going to help out the performance of the portfolio. So it just takes the guesswork out. And there's a lot of things that we actually can't predict in the market that people think that we can predict. And when you're playing the active game, you can really get burned by, trying to predict the unpredictable and, making bad decisions as a result of that. So, the passive game, we don't have to time. Now, people can get into trouble if they're passive investors, if, they start to, feel the emotion of the market as the market is growing and growing, as more and more people are piling into the stock market. even as a passive investor, it's easy to think, oh, the market just keeps going up. Like, I can't lose here. And you may increase your contributions at a time when, stocks are becoming more expensive. And conversely, as the market is crashing, as a passive investor, you might think, oh, what a crock this stock market is. It's a rigged game. Like, I'm going to scale back my contributions, or I'm just going to stop my contributions. So you got to be careful. Even as a passive investor, we can fall into these pitfalls of making the wrong decisions at the wrong time. So it's really important as an active or a passive investor to, make contributions based on what you can contribute from your income, but I wouldn't necessarily try to tweak it based on where you think the market is. Then you're being a passive investor, but you're slipping into active territory, which really tends to work against the performance of your portfolio for most people. For people who don't really understand how to play the game and have studied the game for many years. So that's all I wanted to share, guys. Those 3 reasons passive investing beats active investing. Now, I'm probably going to make another video in the near future about reasons that active investing beats passive investing. So, let me know if you're interested in seeing that. I personally am an active investor, although I really try to incorporate passive elements into my investing framework to kind of remove the biases as much as possible, and when I am susceptible to them, to be aware of them as much as possible, to get to know what they are and be able to identify them in myself when I'm making those errors in execution, errors in judgment. So that's all I got, guys. Reasons passive investing beats active investing. If you like this video, please smash that thumbs up button. It really helps my channel. And hit that subscribe button. I put out a video every day, mostly on investing. Sometimes, my experiment's growing a YouTube channel here. So, if that's in your wheelhouse, please hit that subscribe button. I'd love to have you in the tribe. All right, guys, I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Stay safe.